Hi, welcome to Green Scene. My name is Marianne DiMascio, and this is a local show about all things green and sustainable. I started this show because as chair of a local green organization called Green Hansen, I found that people were coming up to me a lot saying, Marianne, how do you recycle? Where do you put the bottles and the cans, and what kind of thing do you have in your house to do that? Or people would say, I heard about solar. Do you know anything about which organizations to contact? So I had a fair amount of information both from my own interest and from the work that I do in energy efficiency. So I thought it'd be great to have a TV show or cable show where I get to show people how to do things, go out and interview people, be on the scene, and basically give information about how people can be greener, how to live a life more sustainably. So the first thing that we have on the show today is, you'll notice it is a little bit cold in the pictures as we do this. There's snow in the pictures, but we decided to show people how to make maple syrup. It appears to many people that it's a very difficult thing to do. How in the world do you make maple syrup? But in actuality, it's very simple. So it's something you can do in your backyard, and you don't need a lot of materials. It's not very expensive, and the end product is very delicious to taste. So on the show today, we have a maple syrup segment where we go into my backyard. We have some friends over who are very eager to learn about how to make maple syrup. And we basically go from the part about tapping the tree, which is a little bit like tapping, but basically you're putting a hole in a tree so that the sap can come out. You are putting a bucket on it to catch the sap when it comes out. And believe it or not, probably the hardest part, which isn't even that hard, is boiling. And why is it the hardest part? Because it takes a long time to boil. When the sap comes out of the tree, it's 40 parts water to 1 part sap. So you have to boil and boil and boil to get rid of all that water and to let it evaporate until you have the nice brown amber sap that you can have for syrup. So we go through that whole process and end up with syrup. It's a lot of fun. It's a great thing to do with friends. You can do it on a lovely Saturday like we did this year, except it happened to be raining when we were out there this time. So we're going to take a look at maple sap, maple sugaring. It's not quite the thing that you've seen on TV with these big vats, and it looks very daunting. So it's really something in your backyard that I just learned to do that you can learn to do also. So let's take a look now at maple sugaring in Hanson, Massachusetts. Welcome to Green Scene with Marianne DiMascio. We're here today on a not so lovely March day to look at maple syrup and how you make it in your backyard. So Olivia is here with me today. You want to hold up the bucket? We have the bucket, we have the tap that goes in the tree, and we're going to tap a tree and talk about how to make maple syrup. All right, Olivia, so here we are. We're ready to tap the tree. I have a trusty drill. I have, what kind of tree is this?
Maple.
It sure is. It's a maple, and it's hard to tell with the snow covering the ground, but if you're not sure, look in the summer. If there's no snow, you can look for maple leaves on the ground. If you're not sure what a maple leaf looks like, you can go look it up on the internet. So the first thing you do is take a drill, the small bit on it, and you want to drill the start of a hole at a slight angle down. So Olivia, I'm going to start this. Can you hold this? I'm going to drill. Take this out. Do you want to do some more? Right there. Slight angle down. And just push as it's... There you go. All right, and then you can just pull it out. Okay, so the next step we'll do is we're going to get a bigger drill bit, make a bigger hole before we put the tap in. The sap is already coming out. Isn't it hard? Yeah. Put the camera back on. Have you done it? lettuce tip.
But wait, that's good.
So the thing you need to know about making maple syrup is it is very simple. You need to know which tree is a maple, first of all. We're standing underneath a maple tree. And second, you need to wait until March or so in this area, in the Boston area, so that the days are warmer than 32 degrees and the nights are colder than 32 degrees, because what happens is the sap goes up the tree when it freezes, and then in the day when the sun is out and it's warm, it comes back down the tree and it drips out. So right behind me, you will see a bucket with some sap in it. So we're going to take a look at what's in there and then take that in and mix it up and make some syrup. Okay, so now, Olivia, we're going to look inside and see what we have. Like water.
Yellowish.
It's not usually yellow. I think what might be happening is some of the tree, some bark from the tree or something might have got in there and colored it a little bit. But basically, it's just like water, and there's about 40-to-1 water to sap. So we have to take this inside, go boil it down to make our syrup. Ready to do that?
Yep.
Okay. Can someone hold that pan down there? We're going to pour this into the pan. Olivia, would you be willing to pour that in? I'll help you hold it. Come right over here. So here we are in the house. We've taken the sap, we've put it into 2 pots, and we're going to take a look at what we have. So in this pot on the left, this is the one we just brought into the house. It's full of sap from the tree. As I said, usually it's clearer than this. I think some bark might have got in it and turned it a little darker color. So this one will probably boil for about 2 hours. And then if you look to this pan, this one has been boiling for 2 hours, and it's getting quite sugary in there. And probably another 15 minutes or so, we'll get the syrup. And then when we're done, we'll pour it into a little jar. We'll strain it into a jar. And you can see this is just the very end of one of the syrups that I did the other day. And it'll be that nice golden color, amber color of syrup. And it just tastes delicious. Someone today tasted it, said, it tastes just like what you buy in the store. And I said, really? I think it might be a little better than what you get in the store. So hope you try it. Look online. There's lots of information. And I don't know if you can get the taps in the local hardware stores. You can try, but online it's pretty easy to get the taps. So hope you go and try the maple syrup in your own backyard. So here we are with the syrup from the sap that we boiled yesterday. So on the right, we have a mason jar with the syrup, and this syrup is all that came out of that big pot that we took out of the yard and then boiled for, actually, it was more than 2 hours. It was more like 3 hours of boiling. So you can see how much it reduced, but it's delicious. The one on the left is one that I boiled earlier in the week, and the colors are a little bit different. You never can tell how dark or light the colors will be. I've found that earlier in the season they tend to be a little bit lighter, and it depends how long you boil it also. And the one on the right, if you remember yesterday, it was a little bit yellow, I think because some bark got into the sap. So here you have it, and they taste delicious. We threw some on the snow to make a little bit of syrup candy also. You pour it on the snow when it's hot. It gets hard and cold really quick, and you peel it off and eat the candy. So lots of fun. Now we get to taste that maple syrup that we made, and what better time than at breakfast for dinner. So while other people are having spaghetti and meatballs, I'll be sitting down to have pancakes and syrup from my very own backyard. So here are 2 different syrups. One, a little bit lighter than the other. It's also, if you notice, a little bit watery. The other one is darker, and this one is a little bit thicker. So now it's time to taste the pancakes. That was delicious. What can you learn from this? You can learn that it is really simple to make something out of not very much, just from your backyard, with probably about $5 for a tap, a bucket, half hour of your time to go out there and tap that tree and then let nature happen. You too can have this kind of syrup and this delicious breakfast for dinner or breakfast for breakfast. For the second part of our show today, we are going on a little field trip. We are heading into Boston, Northeastern University, where there's an environmental action conference. And this conference has been going on, I'm not quite sure how many years. I've been 3 or 4 times over the last 8 years. And basically, it's a look at what's going on with environmental issues in the state of Massachusetts. And there are a lot of organizations in the state doing really good work. There are organizations that are part of a national organization. People really care about what's going on with climate change. I heard yesterday, for the first time in recent history, the amount of carbon dioxide has gone up over 400 pounds per, I believe it's per square inch. I don't know the exact way to say that, but over 400. And that is a big and not a very good milestone. That there's a group called 350.org, which had, when it started, was trying to keep us from going over 350 parts. Maybe it's 350 parts per million. In any case, there are a lot of people who care about not having more carbon dioxide in the environment. You've seen things like the weather that has changed around here. The wicked winter that we had with so much snow was very abnormal and could technically, or could essentially be part of a changing climate. So there are a lot of people who are thinking about, how do we stop these things? How do we live healthier? So at this conference, I was able to interview a bunch of different people on several different topics. So one you'll see is a woman who's been an activist for a long time. She talks about the Pilgrim nuclear power plant, which in Plymouth is not that far from where we live in Hanson, Massachusetts. It's the same type of power plant as the one in Japan that had a particular problem a few years ago. And there are some issues that people are very concerned about. So she talks about the power plant and some of the things she's discovered. And this is a woman who's been very active locally and talks about some of her concerns. Also a couple of high school students who are doing activism, and they're trying to get people to care and act more on what they feel about climate change. So it's encouraging to see the younger population coming in. Also, someone from Co-op Power. Many of you might be familiar with Mass Save. It's something the state runs and the utilities run, so that if you want to save energy and money, they will come and do a free energy audit in your house. They can bring new light bulbs to you and other energy saving items that can lower your utility bill. So it's one of the organizations that will help do that and come into your home. So you'll hear from her. Also from someone who talks about organic lawn care. And I think this one is a really great issue. Where we live in Hanson, people do have lawns. They tend to take care of them. There are people that use pesticides on their lawn. And the concern is that there are animals and children, our animals that are out on those lawns. And there are dangers in pesticides. So there are ways that we can have green, healthy, good-looking lawns, be the envy of the neighborhood, and not use pesticides. So a woman has devoted her career to doing that. She says a few words. And also, I wanted to mention a couple of groups about that if you are interested. There's beyondpesticides.org and greenscapes.org. They have really good information about that. And we had someone in Hanson a few years ago who talked about pesticide. He showed 2 charts, and it showed the increased use of pesticides and the increased incidence of cancer in dogs. And it was striking how similar it was. So really something to think about. And there are some communities that have gone pesticide free. So something to think about for your own home or schools where children are playing on their playing fields. And also we'll talk to someone who is working with businesses to get places like dry cleaners have a safer, healthy environment. And I went to something on a session about removing flame retardants from our furniture to make our day-to-day living in our homes safer, because there are some concerns about the toxicity of that. So really interesting conference. I hope you really enjoy listening to some of these people that we've interviewed during this show. Welcome to the Green Scene with Marianne DiMascio. We're filming today from the Environmental Action Conference in Boston at Northeastern University, and we'll be looking at some of the very interesting, informative workshops they have, and hopefully being inspired by some of what they're doing. There's a lot of work going on locally in towns, communities around Massachusetts to be green, to see what they can do to slow down climate change, and to make our communities a lot healthier. I'm on my way to a conference, a workshop that will look at making our communities healthier and safer. So as we go through the day, we'll interview some people, and you can see behind me, this is sponsored by the Mass Climate Action Network and the Toxic Action Center. So lots on tap for today, and we'll hopefully bring you an interesting show.
Hi, I'm Bernadette Giblin. I am a NOFA accredited organic land care professional, and we just came out of the Pesticide-Free Communities workshop, and I told my story of how I started out as a mom, and then I became an organic land care contractor and helped my community find a way to go pesticide-free on some of their public lands. We're working on one park now, and it's going to be a model that will hopefully fan out to all the parks in our community. And people are learning how important it is for the protection of water, for the protection of our vulnerable health, people with environmental sensitivities, recovering from degenerative diseases and all kinds of dreadful cancers. It's really helping a lot to just let people know that there's a safe alternative, and I'm teaching people all about it. And how we can protect our water, how we can protect our bees, all that great stuff. You know, as a gardener, I've noticed a decline in bees in my garden, and how we can protect our right-of-ways to not be spraying things that are going to put those pollinators at risk. So I had so much fun meeting Marianne here today at the conference, and we're really inspired about how we can create new community coalitions with other people who care about safe, healthy lands for kids to play on and water to drink. And that it can be fun. You know, it doesn't have to be this big, depressing, at loggerheads kind of thing. It can be as simple as when we all changed over our light bulbs, switching over and transitioning our common areas to a safe organic land care alternative. So keep me posted in your town. I'd love to hear more.
So hi, I'm Jonathan, and this is Jacob.
I'm Jacob.
And we're part of ACE Action Fellowship, and we are students from from high schools around Massachusetts, trying to understand all that there is to know about climate education, and how to get people's attention on this very important topic. Today we're here to support all these organizations and understand more about how we can campaign to better the world.
Yeah, so I guess at ACE, well, it's a whole group of high school kids from I don't think we have any freshmen, but sophomores to seniors, and we're all from the Massachusetts area, and we meet every other Thursdays and sometimes every Thursdays in person, and we kind of communicate online. And we basically work to understand climate change a little bit better, and then we go to events like this to really give us action opportunities and kind of make us stronger leaders in the climate change movement and really educate us. So then after this year, when the program's over, we can really use our knowledge to kind of better our communities, on a small scale, or just or as the state as a whole or the nation as a whole. And I guess the goal being the world as a whole, but you got to start somewhere.
My name is Carlos Espinosa Toro, and I'm the Director of Community Organizing of the Jamaica Plain New Economy Transition. We work doing projects in the community of Jamaica Plain that address climate change and income inequality. We also deal with issues of equity, bridging across the divides of race and class. One clear example is a transition that we promoted for a dry cleaner owned by an immigrant family to stop using perchlorine, a carcinogen of the environment, but at the same time getting some community support in order to be able to survive and thrive in a neighborhood that is currently gentrifying like Jamaica Plain. We believe that these kind of models could be applicable to many other places in the U.S. because it's not just about getting rid of environmental toxins or toxics through a method of shutting things down, but it's actually being more proactive about how the environment could be cleaner, and at the same time the people who actually do need traditional livelihood businesses in order to survive can thrive financially, economically sustainable.
Hi. I'm Femke Rosenbaum, and I went to a meeting at the Cape Cod Community College to hear Helen Caldecott speak about the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Plant. I didn't really know anything about what went on. I had my suspicions about nuclear energy, but after hearing her speak, I was convinced that we had to shut down the plant. And some of the things that really worried me, first of all, their daily releases in the air and in the water. It's a minimal amount that the government has approved, but it still accumulates. So I think that is a bad idea. I think any release of any toxins in the environment, we don't need any more of that. Also, people think it's clean energy. In fact, all the uranium first goes to Kentucky to be processed by coal, and then it gets shipped to whatever nuclear power plant. So between the coal and the shipment, okay, that's bad too. Then I find out that it's the same design as Fukushima plant, which is when they lost electricity. There was a tsunami and it caused the loss of electricity. They weren't able to keep they have these tanks where they hold the wasted fuel rods. They're very, very hot, and they sit there. And apparently in Pilgrim, they have 4 times the amount of wasted fuel rods in there because there's no place to take the waste. I remember arguing with my father-in-law 40 years ago about nuclear power, and I said, well, how about the waste? He said, oh, they'll find something. Well, guess what? We still don't have a place to put it, so it's sitting there. So besides the fact that the Pilgrim nuclear power plant is releasing, and also it has a lot of water that they need to bring into these holding tanks to cool it, and then it gets again dumped into the bay. So those things, and there's something else. So they're there, and then the other thing about it, it's a very old plant, right? So a lot of it's built to last for 40 years. It's now 42 years. Sometimes when it's very hot, like a couple of summers ago, they had to shut it down because the water in the bay got too hot. The cancer rates in the area around the Plymouth nuclear power plant, both with workers and their children and the people who live there, are way higher than other places in Massachusetts. This is a documented fact. So that's the other thing, is that it's very vulnerable to a terrorist attack. I got arrested at a demonstration. We went over, onto their property, a group of older people, and one of the people that was with us was a man who, with a friend, had flown over the power plant with a helicopter. Nobody stopped them. Some other people I know, they walked right into the power plant. They went all the way inside. Nobody stopped them. So those, I don't know if I touched on all the issues, but that's a lot to be worried about. I do worry because it's right by the ocean, and I think it's a danger. I think all nuclear power plants are a danger because there's no place to put the waste. It's going to be around for like millions of years, so it's not a good thing to leave behind, and it just keeps on accumulating.
Hi, my name is Olive Knight. I work with Co-op Power, which is a member-owned energy cooperative. And our main product is energy efficiency through the Mass Save program. To get your home insulated, you would call us. We'll do a no-cost energy assessment of your home and then give you a report that tells you what energy measures you should take to insulate your home. Also, we're about to start a community solar program. We're identifying nonprofit organizations and using their buildings so the community who cannot get solar panels themselves can connect to that solar on the nonprofit's roof. So if you need to contact us, just call me at 617-272-3340. We're in Hyde Park, Massachusetts, or in Hatfield, Massachusetts.
Hi there, everybody. My name is Sue Harden. I live in Quincy. And the reason that I got so excited about Bio for Climate is that there was a presentation at the Milton Library, and the title of the presentation was Cows Save the Planet. And I thought, okay, that sounds like it's off the wall, and that's what I am usually. So I went over to see what was going on, and I learned so much at this meeting that Sustainable Milton put on that I got inspired to get more involved with Bio for Climate. And one of the things that interests me the most is what each one of us can do. I used to be a science/biology teacher for most of my career, and I like to say that what we learned about photosynthesis in the 4th grade is still true. And what happens is in everybody's garden and everybody's backyard, if the more you have growing, the deeper the roots are of these plants, the more carbon dioxide that is taken out of the air and put into the root system and into all of the microbes and earthworms and all of the critters that live under the soil and they have the power, these little tiny critters, of taking the carbon dioxide out of the air and not just cutting climate change, but reversing climate change. If you think this is too good to be true, then go to bioforclimate.org, and find out more about it. Thank you very much.
So it's the end of a great day here at the Environmental Actions Conference. Had the chance to talk to a lot of people, go to sessions. I mentioned earlier the pesticide session and looking at beyond pesticides. Also get to hear about flame retardants and things that used to be in our children's clothing are still in our couches and furniture, how they're trying to move things away from using flame retardants that are dangerous to our health. A lot more than that, and I will be happy to share all that information with you in the future.